Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know the person of Matthew, both an apostle and an evangelist? Every September the 21st, we celebrate the feast of St. Matthew, an apostle and evangelist. Now, an apostle is one who is chosen by Jesus as one of the 12 apostles to be sent out to proclaim the word, and an evangelist is one who has a gospel named after him. Now, in the synoptics, this would be Matthew, Mark, and Luke, as well as in the Acts of the Apostles. In the list of the 12 apostles, Matthew is consistently referred to as Matthew the tax collector. However, in the Gospel of Mark and Luke, Matthew is referred to, especially in the call of Jesus in the Gospel, call of Matthew. Matthew is referred to not as Matthew, but as Levi, the son of Alphaeus. Now, why the difference in name, we're not quite certain. Much speculation surrounds around the fact that maybe it was a change of name from Levi to Matthew after Jesus called him, similar to the change in name of Simon, who, after Jesus called him, was named Peter. So that could be the possibility of why the confusion with the two names. What we do know is that he was a tax collector situated in the city of Capharnaum, which happened to be the home base of Jesus' ministry as an adult, his public ministry. And he was it was a Roman port city in which Matthew was assigned to collect the custom taxes that would be required in the port city. And as a result of that, many people despised, as we know, tax collectors. Why? Because tax collectors were usually considered to be cheat and robbers, took advantage of people, as well as they collaborated with the Romans. And that really, Jews and non-Jews despised tax collectors across the board. Matthew, at least, is at his custom post, and Jesus is walking by. And he sees Matthew at his custom post, and he calls Matthew and asks him to follow him. And Matthew, for whatever reason, immediately drops everything and follows Jesus, leaves everything behind. All of the wealth and the money and so on, leaves everything behind and follows Jesus. And so we do know that, therefore, after following Jesus, he throws an elaborate party, if you want, for Jesus, and invites all of his tax collector friends and sinners and so on. And Jesus and Matthew are criticized for that very event in the gospel. So we know that the gospels are not named till after till the second century. So the manuscripts were not named. So, but we do know that in the second century, one of those manuscripts was attributed to Matthew. The gospel writer, from what we can tell, he must have been Jewish, because it's written to a Jewish audience, and not only Jewish audience, but one who was very familiar with the Jewish scriptures and pictures Jesus in that gospel as fulfilling all the messianic promises of the Jewish scripture. We don't know much about Matthew as a person. We do know that the gospel image that's associated with him, the gospel symbols that are associated with each of the four gospels, in his case is that of a human being. Why? Because the reason is that Matthew begins his gospel with the genealogy of Jesus, making Jesus human like one of us and showing Jesus' connections and relationships and so on. As I said, not much is known about the apostles, what happens to them after the resurrection. Tradition has it that Matthew began preaching the gospel in Judea and then traveled somewhere to the east. He is also typically venerated as a martyr, but we don't know when he died, how, or what the situation was. Others in the tradition claim that he died a natural death somewhere in Ethiopia or in Persia. Now, there were relics that were moved, supposedly his relics were moved from Ethiopia to Brittany and eventually to Salerno in Italy, a city south of Naples. There are 5 churches in France that claim to have the head of St. Matthew. We're not quite sure how reliable those relics are, let's put it that way. He is the patron saint of the diocese and city of Salerno in Italy, and he is the patron saint of tax collectors, accountants, custom officials, and money changers. There are many representations of Matthew in the artwork over the centuries. When he's represented as an evangelist, the typical symbol of the Matthew is the human being. Oftentimes as an evangelist too, he's symbolized sitting at his desk, writing the gospel, in which you have an angel over him, either dictating the gospel to him, guiding his hands as he's writing the gospel, or holding the inkwell so that he can dip the pen. So in other words, the whole gospel is directed by the angels and so on. So that's in the artwork. As a matter of fact, what's really very funny, in the Middle Ages, they gave him eyeglasses as he was writing his gospel. And there's a lot of artwork also representing him as an apostle. He is oftentimes represented with a symbol of his martyrdom, supposedly their sword or a spear. There are 2 famous scenes of his life as an apostle. One is the one in which he is the call of Matthew at his custom post, very famous painting by an Italian painter, Caravaggio. And the other one is the famous elaborate feast that he gave in honor of Jesus and his fellow sinners, if you want. And that was a famous painting by Veronese, the Italian artist. In the Orthodox tradition, St. Matthew is celebrated on November the 16th, but in the West, we typically celebrate his feast day on September the 21st. So I hope this has helped to explain just a bit of who the person of St. Matthew is all about, both an apostle and an evangelist, and I hope you'll return again to more Do You Know series questions as we continue to delve into our Christian traditions and faith tradition. Thank you very much.